welcome back to the channel. Today we want to talk about group by in SQL Server. If you want to get into advanced analytics, then group by is non-negotiable. We have to know what that is. So what is a group by? So group by help us to organize or categorize rows that has the same value into a summary records or summary rows basically. So you mostly want to use a group by together with an aggregate function. And I hope you remember what aggregate functions are, right? Your mean, your mass, your standard deviation, your variance, your count, and all that, right? Yeah, so those are your aggregate function. And the aggregate function basically summarize our data, and those data are organized by the group by clause. And sometimes we also want to perform some filtering on our group data, right? If you want to do that, you're basically going to use the having clause to filter on the grouped data. Now, group by also allow us to obtain advanced computation on our resource set by providing subtotal and grand total. To obtain that kind of resource set, we are going to expatiate on our group by expression by using group by cube or group by rollup. And also we have group by grouping set. That will help us to obtain such resource set. Group by is very, very easy and exciting to use. So let's get into the detail of how to use group by. See you. All right, so to follow along with these specific examples, you would have to come to the link in the description box to my GitHub repository to copy the Walmart database. So all you have to do here is to highlight and copy everything and just run it in your query editor to create the Walmart database. We have already gone through the structure of the Walmart database extensively on previous videos. So I don't think there's a need to do that again now. So currently we are just going to work with a table known as the sales table. So let's look at the structure of the sales table. So select all from sales. All right, let's just execute this. And this is our sales table. So what we are going to do now is to find the total sales in our sales table. All right, finding the total sales in our sales table. So find total sales. All right, to find the total sales, we just go ahead and select, and we are going to use the aggregate function SAM, and our total sales can be found on this attribute known as total amount. So total amount is not case sensitive. We can pass an alias as total sales from our sales table. All right, so we can go ahead and execute this to find the total sales. So this is our total sales. So how does group by play any role in this requirement? So in our next requirement, we are basically going to look at the total sales based on a payment method. Okay, total sales based on payment method. All right, so total sales based on payment method. Let's go back to our table. We have an attribute known as payment method, and in that column, the payment method that was used for a particular sales is captured. So the payment method for this particular transaction was cash, the other was credit card, and we have online, and so on. So now our requirement is to find the total sales based on the payment method. All right, so to do that, we do a select. We can pass the payment method. Sometimes you can also use the IntelliSense to help you pass the right attribute names. So you can go ahead and pass your from first, sales. So if I have this already passed and I start typing payments, you see that the name will pop up. All right, you just select and execute. All right, so we are going to find the sum, or the same thing we have up there. So I'll just go ahead and copy and paste in here. So if I execute this statement, I'm going to run into errors, and it's one of the popular errors that you will come across when you are using aggregate function and an extra column that is being called. All right, so anytime you call an extra column, the rule is such that this extra column will have to be wrapped in a group by clause, or this column should also be part of the aggregate function. But per our requirement, we don't need this to be part of the aggregate function. So it means that we have to wrap this in a group by clause. But if I go ahead and run it like this, then we'll run into errors. All right, let's stimulate the error. Okay, so this is the error. It says that column sales dot payment method is invalid in the select list because it is not contained in either an aggregate function or a group by clause. So just as I said, this column should be part of the aggregate function or should be part of a group by clause. And per our requirement, we want to find the total sales based on the payment method. So we don't need to align or add any aggregate function to this column. So this column will basically have to be part of a group by clause, right? Okay, so we go ahead and we say group by payment method, right? Group by payment method. Let's run this. Now we have the payment method. So the total transaction for bank transfer is this. The total transaction for cash is this. Total transaction for credit card, and so on. That is how we use our group by. All right, so let's look at another situation where we want to find a subtotal of our group data. All right, but before then, let's try and filter first. All right, let's use filter here first. All right, so to filter on a group data or an aggregated data, let me add in filters. All right, so to filter, we are going to use a clause called the having clause. So having, let's say if we want to see a specific resource set, then we say having payment method like, I'm going to use that wildcard here, having payment method like, okay, see. So this denotes that all payment method that start with C, those are the payment method we want to see. So it's basically cash and credit card. All right, so let's run this. So cash and credit card. Okay, so we have C in debit card too. So it also, passes through the condition. It's valid for the condition that we are requesting. All right. Okay, so now let's proceed with uh, adding subtotals to our aggregated data or our group data. So with the subtotal, we are going to write the group by in a much different way. And this time, we are going to find only the subtotal and the grand total. So we are going to use group by roll up. All right. So group by roll up. Our condition is going to change a little bit. I'm just going to copy this, so I'll make some few changes just so that our video will not be too long. Let's go look at our original table. And all right, so I would like to use, we have two distinct here. It's either 2005 or 2004, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and use that. I'm going to use year. So year is basically a function that will strip the year part of the whole complete date structure. So it's just going to pick the year out of the whole complete date structure for this attribute. All right, it's sales date, right? As year. All right, so let's run this and let's see what we get first. So we are going to group by the year, okay? All right, so this is the year that we have. It's 2004, 2005. So this time our data has been aggregated based on the year. All right, our data has been aggregated based on the year. All right, let's go ahead and find the subtotal. All right. So if you want to find the subtotal, let's add one more column so that we can see much more details. So I'm still gonna use the payment method, so it's fine. So let's use the payment method. So if we have the payment method added, then it means that then the payment method is not part of an aggregate function. It has to be part of the group by clause, right? We already know that. So this is what we get here. Now our data is being aggregated or categorized based on the payment type and the year. We have two distinct here. So for bank transfer for 2024, this is the total. And for 2025, for bank transfer, again, this is the total. All right. So this seems very, very clear, right? Now, let's find a subtotal of each payment method, all right, by the year. So to do that, now you would use roll up. And as I said, roll up is a function. You open and close a parenthesis. All right, just like that. So let's run this. Now, what are you seeing here? For all 2004, this is the subtotal for all the transaction type based on the payment method. So we have 5 distinct payment methods. We have bank transfer, cash, credit card, debit card, and online. These are the payment methods. So for 2024, this is the total transaction that was made, total sales. All right. And for 2025, we have the total sales to be this. Now, the final one on line 13 is the grand total for both 2024 and 2025. So these are subtotals, and grand totals. All right. So then let's go ahead and look at using group by cube. So with group by cube, what happened is that uh, it provides multiple combination of the subtotal based on the conditions that we pass in here. So you will see that the subtotal is quite much more than the roll up, all right, because it provides all the multiple combination that uh, they can compute the subtotal. So it's going to compute the subtotal by the sales year and also compute the subtotal by the payment method, then further find the grand total by both the year and the payment method. That is how it's gonna work. All right, cube, group by cube. Then we go ahead and execute. So you see this has multiple subtotals, right? So when we take bank transfer, for the bank transfer for the year 2024, this is the total. For the year 2025, this is the total. But for the bank transfer for both 2024 and 2025, this is the subtotal. For cash, for the year 2024, this is the total. For the year 2025, this is the total. And for both year, this is the subtotal. That is how it's going to behave for the rest of the payment method. Then, when you come all the way down here, for all the transaction that was made based on the subtotals, this is the grand total. And it further goes in to find the total or the subtotal for the whole year 2024, irrespective of the payment method, and the subtotal for 2025, irrespective of the payment method. So that is how the cube works. So let's look at the last one, which is grouping by grouping sets. All right. So grouping by grouping set, you are basically customizing the way you want your group data to look like. All right. So with that, you can choose to group by the year separately and also group by the payment method separately. All right. Let's look into that. All right, so let me just copy and repeat this same thing here. And it's going to be group by, then you use the keyword grouping sets. All right, this is how it's gonna look like. Group by grouping set. That is good enough. Let's run this. So group by grouping set, let's look into the detail. What happened? All right, so you see this is the condition by which the grouping is done. So for the year that we have here, we have an isolated computation for the year 2024 and another final total for the year 2025. All right, and aside that, for the payment method, for each payment method, it shows the grand total for each payment method. And same apply to the rest of the payment method, all right? For cash, for credit card, and all that, it shows the grand total for each of the payment method. So this is how group by works. It is very, very easy. Just take your time and, spend much more time to experiment or practice, and I think you'll be very, very much okay. Don't hesitate to also reach out to us anytime. We are available to help you and see you successful. All right, see you in the next video. Don't forget to comment and like these videos.